We had the best time doing the initial breakdown of the body language and behavior in this video, and we decided we'd revisit some of our favorite moments from it.
All of this goes back to your friendship with Jeffrey Epstein. How did you first become friends? How did you meet?
Well, I met through his girlfriend back in 1999, who, and I'd known her since she was at university in the UK. And it would be, to some extent, a stretch to say that as it were, we were close friends. I mean, we were friends because of other people. And I had a lot of opportunity to go to the United States, but I didn't have much time with him. I suppose I saw him once or twice a year, perhaps maybe maximum of 3 times a year. And quite often, if I was in the United States and doing things, and if he wasn't there, he would say, well, why don't you come and use my houses? So I said, that's very kind, thank you very much indeed. But it would be a considerable stretch to say that he was a very, very close friend. But he had the most extraordinary ability to bring extraordinary people together. And that's the bit that I remember, is going to the dinner parties where you would meet academics, politicians, people from the United Nations. I mean, it was a cosmopolitan group of what I would describe as US eminence.
All right, so who wants to go first? Greg?
Yeah, so I'll jump on 2 things, and then it may bleed into 3. Number 1, it would be a stretch to characterize us as close friends.
It would be, to some extent, a stretch to say that as it were, we were close friends.
Evolves to, it would be a considerable stretch to characterize us as very, very close friends.
But it would be a considerable stretch to say that he was a very, very close friend.
That's an interesting distancing from the situation, number 1. Here's one of those, and Chase, we'll both be on this one from different angles. This is one of those points where he's nodding very rapidly, yes, about being a friend, and then suddenly preparing because he knows what's coming, pushing his tongue out of his mouth. And this is not a grooming move as much, cleaning your mouth, as almost distasteful, pushing his tongue out. Of course, his routine is a little bit of that, but watching from here, that first start, and you'll see as he progresses through this, fight or flight's going to start hitting him, and you'll get mucosal fatigue and all that, and we'll talk about it as it shows up. But those 2 things are my first 2.
Chase, what do you got?
There's a lot here. So just focus on a couple of things. We have this lip compression the moment that the person's name is mentioned.
Jeffrey Epstein.
We see the lips squeezed together, which typically means withheld opinions or something's kind of being withheld. And we're also getting a little bit of a baseline here because we're starting out the video, and Greg talks a lot about baseline. So we're looking, he's accessing a genuine memory, and he looks over to his left. So we're kind of just starting to get this little baseline behavior. And when he says United States, he's using this hand, he's gesturing that direction when he's going to America. So these are important little things to pay attention to for the rest of the interview. And one thing you'll notice, when you have an HD video, it's really, really cool. The artery underneath the knee causes the foot to bounce with the heartbeat.
Chase, it's a beautiful thing because I've been watching it the entire video myself, watching his pulse rate. It's a beautiful thing.
That's why I was waiting to the end. I was going to goose it with that. But
I wondered which handler let him sit that way in full camera view. Like, Mark, your people are letting.
Yeah, well, let me tell you about this. His handlers have abandoned him at this point. And here's how I think we can tell that. Just look at his tie. His tie is askew. A handler would have never have let that go. So let's look at the bigger context that we have here. We're in the royal palace. That's not his house. That's his mother's house. It's the seat of the Crown of England. It's a place of high authority where he's trying to get extreme compliance from this interviewer. And he's trying to do it by striking awe. As you walk into that room, you just need to look at the China collection at the back. You've got priceless paintings all around you. He's basically saying, you will comply because look at the authority that rests here. Mateless, to counter this, has shown up in a military-style jacket. knowing I think, so there are no accidents here.
Right.
There are conscious and unconscious choices. She's shown up in a military jacket, hoping for some compliance around that he'll see the braids, he'll see the military style. And although he's a vice admiral himself, there will be an element of compliance to that idea of military and rank signals, essentially. Though, of course, we don't expect that he thinks she holds any rank. However, in the UK, she would be one of the top interviewers in hard news. So she's a strong contender here. So I just want to lay that out and just, let you know, I think he's been abandoned at this point. He's on his own because handlers would have come in and they'd have adjusted that time. I just want to make two other points about this. Greg, the stretch, we actually see him do a descriptor of that stretch. And he doesn't make it a huge stretch. He makes it a little bit of a stretch. But later on in the interview, we're going to see him do a stretch again, and we're going to see his hands clasped together, and he won't describe a stretch. So it's a good chance for a baseline on that. And I just want to put one more thing down. He says, that's the bit that I remember, and that stresses on I.
And that's the bit that I remember.
And I think at this point, to your point at the start, Scott, he's just laid down his complete strategy, which is, I remember this, and I'm not going to remember other stuff. So he's already gone, here's my strategy. I'm going to forget stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the way it's laid out. You can tell he's been hanging with some high-end lawyers because that's the perfect setup for that whole thing. Right out of the gate, he says,
how did you meet?
Well, I met through his girlfriend.
He doesn't say I met him. He doesn't say we met. He says I met. And that distances him from word one, from the right out of the gate, I met at. And then he describes how it's done. We're talking about that foot sticking out as well. And it's really important, not just for the heartbeat, but he's using it as a barrier as well. So I'll be pointing those out as we go through, because as he gets to some points, you see it go dank as he tries to psychologically block what's coming at him. And these angles they've done with this are perfect, and they're not just honing in on her like we saw in the Megyn Kelly thing. It's not about Megyn Kelly, and it's not about this interviewer. It's about the interviewee. So this is going to be a great learning exercise for the person that wants to learn about body language.
I spend a lot of time studying the signals and cues and tells people throw up, whether they realize it or not. And one of the most fascinating things I've analyzed is how people react to the tasks they subconsciously avoid. I'm talking about, they have that little shoulder shrug, or they'll go back too fast, they'll look away really quick, or maybe even a nervous little laugh when somebody says, yeah, you should probably book a doctor's appointment for that. But then they don't. Why is that? Because the process feels overwhelming, and finding an in-network provider, checking the reviews, then actually locking in an appointment can feel like a mental maze. And that's exactly why I use our sponsor, ZocDoc, ZocDoc, and I really do use it.
It's a completely free website that lets you search, compare,
and instantly look up appointments with high-quality in-network doctors
across nearly every specialty.
From mental health and dermatology, primary care to dentistry, and so much more. And when I say I personally use ZocDoc, I really do, and here's what happened. I was out of town and doing a training for a week, and I had thyroid cancer, and I had that taken care of. I've had my thyroid out and everything's fine. But when you get a little something on your neck, once you've had that, and it feels weird, and you want to know what's going on, you want to know what's going on right then. So what I do, I got out my ZocDoc app, found a doctor, and that next day, by lunchtime, I'd found out that everything was fine. Everything was okay. And I would have done anything to not spend that next 2 weeks waiting for a doctor to see me. I didn't have to because I had ZocDoc. And some of the appointments you make are even available that day. Honestly, it's a game changer. No more calling around, no more wondering if a doctor takes your insurance. You can filter by search, insurance location availability, specialty, and even patient ratings. So if you've been putting off that doctor's appointment, don't wait any longer. Head over to ZocDoc.com/TBP or click the link in the description below to find and instantly book a top-rated in-network doctor today. Trust me, your health will thank you.
All of this goes back to your friendship with Jeffrey Epstein. How did you first become friends? How did you meet?
Well, I met through his girlfriend back in 1999 who, and I'd known her since she was at university in the UK. And it would be, to some extent, a stretch to say that as it were, we were close friends. I mean, we were friends because of other people. And I had a lot of opportunity to go to the United States, but I didn't have much time with him. I suppose I saw him once or twice a year, perhaps maybe maximum of 3 times a year. And quite often, if I was in the United States and doing things, and if he wasn't there, he would say, well, why don't you come and use my houses? So I said, that's very kind, thank you very much indeed. But it would be a considerable stretch to say that he was a very, very close friend. But he had the most extraordinary ability to bring extraordinary people together. And that's the bit that I remember, is going to the dinner parties where you would meet academics, politicians, people from the United Nations. I mean, it was a cosmopolitan group of what I would describe as US eminence.
Was that his appeal then? Was that what you... Because you were perceived by the public as being the party prince. Was that something you shared?
I think that's also a bit of a stretch. I don't know why I've collected that title, because I never have really partied. I was single for quite a long time in the early 80s. But then after I got married, I was very happy. And I've never really felt the need to go and party. And certainly going to Jeffrey's was not about partying. Absolutely not.
All right. Well, here's what I'm seeing right out of the gate on that one. He shakes his head no while he's saying yes.
Was that what you...
That's after right there, the first question. He says, I've never felt the need to party. And you see the classic half shrug.
I've never really felt the need to go and party.
Again, about his foot. It's not about partying. That's when his foot goes up for the first time. We see that blockage go up. Then we see his limbic system kicking in, because he's starting to dawn on him, or he's starting to feel just a little bit of heat at that point. His nostrils flare a little bit, and his eyes close. His eyes close all the way, actually. And when he's finished giving this statement, you can, as he's doing this, he's rubbing his fingers like in the fashion of, okay, there's one down of an accomplishment. In other words, when you see that. So he gives that a sigh of relief as he's going through, got through that one. That went well. And Chase, you're right. When he's looking over to our right, that's when he's recalling what he's heard. Now, you know my feelings on eye accessing, you and Greg do. But, what are you going to do? That's where he's going for remembering things anyway. That's where his eyes head. So what are you seeing, Mark?
Yeah, so nice baseline there on that was his appeal. Yeah. So he does an upward inflection on that. I think he's jumping there on this gift of compliance. Yeah, and we're going to see this later on. And I think what we're going to see is the interviewer cleverly use that signal of, I just won, to then move in for the attack, because she knows at this point she's got him optimistic about this. So that was his appeal. Yeah. And up his voice goes, and he jumps on this gift. He's got to comply to that point. Now, we see at this point, that second, that's a bit of a stretch.
Also a bit of a stretch.
But instead of doing the descriptor, he's now clasped together. My guess would be is that means that it's a different stretch from the first stretch. In fact, it's not a stretch. Else he would have described it, I believe, in some way. We see his blink rate go up, and I'm sure Chase will talk about that. I think we hear the name of Jeffrey.
Going to Jeffrey's.
Just Jeffrey, not Epstein, Jeffrey. And the tonality of it seems to feel quite friendly. Yeah. So let me leave it there.
Okay. Chase, what do you got?
We see a lot in this. We're going to see a lot in all these.
Yeah.
But we got a really good baseline here about how he has truthful conversations. He's talking about when he was younger and when he was married, he makes about 50% eye contact. Anytime you talk to a person, we ask them a few questions that are general, that they have no reason to lie to. And we see that when he's being truthful, he looks off to the side and he makes less eye contact. So he tends to make a ton, like 100% just about, of eye contact when he's trying to be a little bit deceptive. We also have another thing here. He mentions Jeffrey's name in a very friendly way, but it's also the only time you will ever hear it. And this is in our field, this is something we call psychological distancing or severity softening, where we don't say the person's name. I did not have sex with that woman. Phrases like that.
Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, a few things. One, he's redefining party. If you notice, it's his stress word in the entire thing.
Party.
What he defines as party and what you define as party, I would guarantee would be different. And his idea of partying is probably back to your tiger thing. They might be clowns involved. So this is one of those times that he's redefining that word if you listen to the stress. He does something I call sacred space. He's closed up and he starts to mill his hands. That's an adapter and a barrier. What you're doing, and the reason I call it sacred space, is you're taking control, giving yourself a new place, giving yourself room, and then making familiar the unfamiliar. And it is a comforting move, but also a blocking move to give yourself some room. He drops his chin. He has his chin down, his brow up, his eyes are closed, and his respiration increases. And you'll notice he's drifting, when he opens his eyes, he's drifting down to the left. Down to the left is a different place than directly left. When a person's accessing memory, typically on their left, and now this is where, Scott, I do believe in eye movement, and I do think it's powerful. You need to baseline someone. But if I ask you to calculate 15% of 980 and you try it, you're going to find an internal conversation about math going on in your head, and your eyes are going to drift slightly down into your left in most people. Now you baseline each person and figure it out, but over and over and over, when he's walking through a minefield, you see that activity, that down left, as he's thinking about what to say next and walking through it. I agree with you 100%, Mark, that in the case of him going, yeah, he just felt a bite on the line and he's going to let her run with it, and he's teasing her to get her to go. This is a great start down the tunnel. She understands what's happening. He doesn't think she does. And the last thing I'll leave you at, you can see the flirt in him here. You can certainly see the flirt. When he makes eye contact and he turns his head but still keeps eye contact and then draws, that pulling taffy move, that's the flirt, right? That's the draw you into my space, remembering that he is, after all, a real prince, not a fairy tale prince, right?
Excellent. Anybody else?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I want to put on this is in the business of lying, you can't be lazy about it. If you're going to lie, you've really got to have a good understanding of what evidence is out there. When it comes to, I'm not really anybody who really partied.
I never have really partied.
Just there's too much evidence that that's not accurate. And so everything from now on has been diminished for him, because we have an image of Andrew in our head, and he's suggesting that we're not right. Well, this is kind of a gaslighting tactic. He's going, no, reality isn't as you've seen it for the last several decades. Well, that's going to be hard for for public opinion to stomach.
It was a cosmopolitan group of what I would describe as US eminence.
Was that his appeal then? Was that what because you were perceived by the public as being the party prince. Was that something you shared?
I think that's also a bit of a stretch. I don't know why I've collected that title, because I never have really partied. I was single for quite a long time in the early 80s. But then after I got married, I was very happy. And I've never really felt the need to go and party. And certainly going to Jeffrey's was not about partying. Absolutely not.
You said you weren't very good friends, but would you describe him as a good friend? Did you trust him?
Yes, I think I probably did. But again, I mean, I don't go into a friendship looking for the wrong thing, if you understand what I mean. I'm an engaging person. I want to be able to engage. I want to find out. I want to learn. And so you have to remember that I was transitioning out of the Navy at the time. And in the transition, I wanted to find out more about what was going on, because in the Navy, it's a pretty isolated business because you're out at sea the whole time. And I was going to become the special representative for international trade and investment. So I wanted to know more about what was going on in the international business world. And so that was another reason for going there. And the opportunities that I had to go to Wall Street and other places to learn whilst I was there were absolutely vital.
All right, Mark, you go first.
Yeah, so what I want to hit on here is just how he's trying to control this using authority. And I think what I've heard Greg and Chase talk about, kind of reading out the resume. And this idea of, well, so he starts with, if you understand what I mean.
I don't go into a friendship looking for the wrong thing, if you understand what I mean.
So it's pretty condescending. So he's trying to get compliance by going, if you don't join in with this train of thought, my guess is you're probably not smart enough to really understand this, because you have to remember. So there's a real instruction there.
You have to remember that I was transitioning out of the Navy at the time.
You have to remember, because it's vital. So he's laying down really clear words of compliance. And then he goes into, because in the Navy, Wall Street and other places. He's reading out this resume of why you would agree with him right now. And many people might think, well, isn't that just kind of verbal tactics? Well, for me, it is non-verbal tactics, because he's trying to create an atmosphere around himself. Something that will cause a sense of authority around him and gain compliance.
Excellent. Greg?
Yeah, so we're close on this one, Mark. I call him Moses come down from the mountain. A life of service. He's done all these things for you. Navy more than one time with a heavy influence. This, I needed to learn new things so I could even be a better servant to the British people. I mean, that whole life of service is here. I think she lets him off the hook a little bit. He feels that lack of pressure, and he starts to be who he really is and to talk more normally. I don't see a whole lot of deception here. To you, the same thing exactly. I see he's building this aura around himself, and he's Moses come down from the mountain.
Exactly. Chase, what do you got?
I think he secretly reveals a lot during this. He starts off by saying,
I don't go into a friendship looking for the wrong thing.
Which may indicate, why did you become friends with this person? And he is feeling persecuted because of that. So that's his first line of defense, is to say that. We notice there's a little more distancing. There's no pronouns when he refers to Epstein here. Throughout the statement, he's talking about the naval career. There's a little bit of a shoulder shrug, and we start to see a repetitive pattern that you'll see throughout the entire video. When he needs some reassurance, which he does a lot throughout this interview, you'll see a big eyebrow flash, and make some eye contact, a big eyebrow flash, and make sure that he gets that. He's kind of communicating uncertainty to make sure the other person nods. And she does very frequently to help him keep moving along.
Okay, keep it short. I'm seeing a lot of truth here. So there are some things that are iffy, but still, I think there's more truth indicators than anything in this part.
Agreed.
So
I do think he's being honest about one thing. This guy Epstein, the only reason that he had the power he had is because he had the ability to coordinate all these meetings. And I do believe that there's real value in that to Andrew. Now, and Chase, to your point, when he said, I don't seek out bad things, doesn't mean bad things didn't come as a part of it. That's right. A different discussion. So I think sometimes when you're interviewing people, they inadvertently give you all the building blocks and you have to figure out how it all goes together. But I do think that all these celebrities and all of these wealthy and powerful people didn't go to Epstein because he was Epstein, but because we could connect him with. He's linked in, right?
Yeah, yeah. And that's what gives him the want to say that. So, hey, everybody else is doing it. I'm doing it too. And there's a reason I'm doing it, because I need to for business. So for who I am.
Absolutely not.
You said you weren't very good friends, but would you describe him as a good friend? Did you trust him?
Yes, I think I probably did. But again, I mean, I don't go into a friendship looking for the wrong thing, if you understand what I mean. I'm an engaging person. I want to be able to engage. I want to find out. I want to learn. And so you have to remember that I was transitioning out of the Navy at the time. And in the transition, I wanted to find out more about what was going on, because in the Navy, it's a pretty isolated business because you're out at sea the whole time. And I was going to become the Special Representative for International Trade and Investment. So I wanted to know more about what was going on in the international business world. And so that was another reason for going there. And the opportunities that I had to go to Wall Street and other places to learn whilst I was there were absolutely vital.
He was your guest as well. In 2000, Epstein was a guest at Windsor Castle and at Sandringham. He was brought right into the heart of the royal family at your invitation.
But certainly at my invitation, not at the royal family's invitation. But remember that it was his girlfriend that was the key element in this. He was the, as it were, plus one to some extent in that.
So I think right in that one, it's really important to him to shut down that whole bit about he came into the bowels of the royal family.
He was brought right into the heart of the royal family at your invitation.
But certainly at my invitation, not at the royal family's invitation.
He starts in on that earlier with that but stuff. Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, so a couple of things right off. He does something that Trump is very good at. It's that condescending pause and slow and overpronounce. When asked why he called it a Chinese virus, he said it's because it's from China.
Remember that it was his girlfriend.
This is the same exact move, and this is by Prince Andrew. Put him side by side with Trump, and you'll see the same body language, that slow pitch across the teeth, that condescending look at the same time, and he's parsing facts. This is one of those places where if I can take some of your facts apart, then your story has no value. And we've all done this in an interrogation room or in a body language session where a guy starts to say, well, I didn't kill 4 people. I killed 2 people. So your story's broken. No matter how ludicrous it is, you start taking the story apart by taking the underpinnings out of it. And then he starts this whole plus one.
He was the, as it were, plus one to some extent.
He's trying to get back to some kind of normal. And I'll leave it at that.
Chase?
I think he was looking for confirmation from the other person again. There's a couple of confirmation glances. And this just happens when a person makes a statement and then looks up in the middle of it or right afterwards to make sure you bought it. Most of it's truthful. I think he's trying to redirect the narrative, and we're setting up for the he wasn't my friend, she was.
Excellent. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, so that jump on the invite.
At my invitation, not at the royal family's invitation.
So it's really important for him at this point not to involve the monarch. Once that happens, he's potentially as good as dead. So he's and clearly I would say from that he is not supported at this point. He has no support from the monarch. If there was support, he would be saying it was a royal event, and then it would be unquestionable. But at this point, it really is a case of another example, I think, of he's out on his own right now.
So is he surrendering his immunity of sorts almost in that way? And that then could explain some of this cascading of body language that's starting to occur right after this, Mark. I mean, I'm just asking you. Please don't, you don't have to put that in, Scott. Because I don't know anything about royal family, really. Yeah.
Yeah, so the royal family has a history of having to save itself every now and again. It has to save itself and keep the UK as a constitutional monarchy, which means that the monarch has power, but not really.
Right.
And this would be a great example of him really understanding that there's no way that he can involve the monarch, and yet at the same time, he's borrowed his mum's house. And I don't think she knows.
He was your guest as well. In 2000, Epstein was a guest at Windsor Castle and at Sandringham. He was brought right into the heart of the royal family at your invitation.
But certainly at my invitation, not at the royal family's invitation. But remember that it was his girlfriend that was the key element in this. He was the, as it were, plus one to some extent in that.
Am I right in thinking you threw a birthday party for Epstein's girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, at Sandringham?
No, it was a shooting weekend.
A shooting weekend?
Just a straightforward shooting weekend.
But during these times that he was a guest at Windsor Castle, at Sandringham, the shooting weekend, we now know that he was and had been procuring young girls for sex trafficking.
We now know that. At the time, there was no indication to me or anybody else that that was what he was doing.
All right, that's my favorite one. It's just like a Ricky Gervais bit. I mean, I've seen that 1,000 times on everything he's ever done. He does that one bit right there. He's comically bracing himself for that whole thing. He goes into, everything moves and he gets ready. He literally braces himself for that thing to happen. You see his foot go up as a barrier when he's talking about that. His hands, of course, clasp because everything's going, oh, here we go. Because I don't think he knows how to quite, he's got an answer, but that's not the answer he was going to use. Because he's got his rehearsed stuff that he was shown or rehearsed and practiced and told to say. But I don't think that's what he's doing there. And his eyebrows are up for that request of approval Greg's always talking about. So he's he's sort of saying, you believe it? Do you believe it? So Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, so you hit most of them, but that preparation for defense, he's looking upright, he's ramping himself, embracing, he breaks eye contact to come back, come back as a warrior, coming back at her. No indication to me, the longest vowel in the entire conversation is me.
There was no indication to me.
Emphasizing me. And then he says, or anybody else.
Or anybody else.
He quickly fills in with a lilt at the end, asking for approval. His brow is up. And then there's a follow-on. I don't know if we're going to cover it, Scott, if we do cut this piece. But then he says, and if there was. And if there was.
Okay, Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, so let's see whether we cover that if there was, but there's a huge swallow gesture there on that, and then a bunch of resume, which we should go into. But let me go back a little bit, which is that no,
it was a shooting weekend.
A shooting weekend.
Just a straightforward shooting weekend.
A straightforward shooting weekend, and that no that comes before it is what we call condescension, because it is literally with a dissent. Condescent, it's with a dissent, and this idea of going from high to low and showing I'm high status and you're low status. It's there again to get compliance from the interviewer. Luckily she's not luckily, she's done a lot of work on being too good for him. So she's not complying with it at this point. I'll hold back on some other ideas because I think hopefully we'll have some follow-ons.
Chase, what do you got?
Right here we have a large inhale right into the chest. There's a postural shift. There's digital flexion, which just means the fingers are squeezing in towards the hands. And we have a temporary gaze aversion, which is when we're making eye contact with somebody, they ask me a question, and I do this right before I answer, which are all deceptive markers. But those things need to kind of combine together like Legos for us to say that's probably deception. But they came together pretty damn well in this one.
Yep.
And one other fact, if you're looking at somebody breathing, if you watch a human sleeping, their belly will go up and down, not their chest. Relaxed people, and he's been on camera all the time. We shouldn't explain away the nervousness from the cameras. Relaxed people breathe into their abdomen, and stressed people breathe into their chest. And it's pretty easy to see in any conversation. We see this big breath into the chest. Later in the conversation, when he gets more comfortable, it goes right into the abdomen.
Excellent. Good.
Yeah, one last thing. As we're watching him throughout this entire thing, Chase, I love the fact you pick up on that chest rising. As you're watching this thing, anytime his back is turned or anytime he's in an oblique, watch his respiration increasing because it gets pretty damn fast.
Am I right in thinking you threw a birthday party for Epstein's girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, at Sandringham?
No, it was a shooting weekend.
A shooting weekend?
Just a straightforward shooting weekend.
But during these times that he was a guest at Windsor Castle at Sandringham, the shooting weekend, we now know that he was and had been procuring young girls for sex trafficking.
We now know that. At the time, there was no indication to me or anybody else that that was what he was doing.
Just for the record, you've been on his private plane.
Yes.
You've been to stay on his private island.
Yes.
You've stayed at his home in Palm Beach.
Yes.
You visited Ghislaine Maxwell's house in Belgravia in London.
Yes.
All right. What do you got, Chase?
So to Greg's point, one thing when we look at eye movement, what I call, for just me personally, I call it home. Where is someone's home when we ask him a question of what happened a certain day? His home is to our right, somewhere near the middle area. And when we ask somebody a geographical location, and we ask them to imagine visual things or geography, they typically look another direction. So we get another sense of that here.
You've stayed at his home in Palm Beach.
Yes.
To his up and left is a little geographical area. All we're doing is just kind of collecting some data points here. But we see that completely accurate, instantaneous,
Yes.
And during those, there's some eye blocking going on. And we kind of close our eyes during we're recalling something emotional or recalling something that we really don't want to. But right at the end, when they're talking about the house in London, you see him say yes, followed by an immediate eye flutter behavior afterwards.
Ghislaine Maxwell's house in Belgravia in London.
Yes.
Which I think shows that something happened there. And if I'm the interviewer, that's the moment that I push the shovel into the dirt. I'm going to start digging the moment that I see that eye flutter, because there was one behavior, and then we see a flutter in response to the other one.
Okay, yeah. I'm gonna add something to that, because I think there's something really important going on here with the third question there when he says yes to that. The first question she asked him, he closes his eyes 2 times.
Yes.
And we've talked before about and Chase, you call it when the lens closes really quickly because you're waiting to look at something really quick. So you're the shutter speed of your eyes. He just relaxed. That first one, everything's cool. He's got 2 blinks there. The second question, 4.
Yes.
All right, a little bit more. On the third one, he only goes to 2.
Yes.
But there's so much going on in that third thing. Something's up. Something has happened at that house. Something's going on there, because here's what we see. When she asked that, the first one, yes, his lips pursed a little bit. He's like, here we go. She's going to nail me for being at these places. That's understandable. And then when he gets to the third one, when he talks about the home in Palm Beach, the right side of his upper lip goes up a little bit, like in contempt or disdain or whatever. We see that go a bit, and his cheek as well. We see that. We'll get into micro expressions for a minute. We're not really doing that because these things are so big. So let's dial down on some of this stuff. I think something either bad happened there. Something's not right there. It's the only place where when he answers these, his eyebrows go up. He looks for that. I don't know if he's looking for approval or what's going on there. Greg, you'll have to look. You have to see that again. But there's something going on there. It's the only time we see that the bottom parts of the whites of his eyes open so wide, we can see those. That's the only time we see that. Something in there has happened, because we're seeing that almost Pavlov reaction to that question when that word comes up. He's like, bang, something happens there very quickly. And he may have been ready for that. I can't tell. But it's the only time his eyebrows lift that high. And it's his longest delay before he answers. All the other ones are just like the rhythm is right there. He's loping. But when he hits that one, there's a slight, just a little longer of a pause before he answers.
Private plane.
Yes.
Private island.
Yes.
Palm Beach.
Yes.
So I would say something's up there. Either he had a bad experience there, or he was afraid he was going to get busted there, or something's up with that situation. I don't know what it is. Maybe we'll find out later on. But I would try to remember that the Palm Beach house, because I think something's up there. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, so let's just look at the tonality of those yeses, because they're a good baseline. If we take away everything that we're seeing, he goes, yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes. Yes.
All the tonalities are the same around that. A great baseline for us to judge that he's telling the truth there. Very different from what we heard before. Yeah. Very different. Now, absolutely, we see on that third one, those eyes dart across, and all of us there are going, well, there's summing up there. Well, I think there are two things up. Number one is we're going to find out there's a photograph for a start. Okay, there's a picture taken in that place, but there's summing up as well, because he already has his argument for that. He already has his argument for that, and he gave away his argument at the start, which is...
And that's the bit that I remember.
But other stuff, he just doesn't recall. He doesn't remember. And so I think that dart across is number one about, that's the place with the photograph, and I've got my solution. I've got my way out of that one. I don't remember it. And then we're going to go into a whole bunch of stuff around the idea that if you can't prove that a photograph isn't fake, it could be.
Yeah.
Hey, Greg?
Yes. For me, this one is preparation, right? This is a naval officer and royalty. He's prepared for this, that yes, these are facts. I think you are starting to see real fight or flight here. He does a mouth grooming move. If you notice this, there's a reason you're doing that. Protein builds up in your mouth from stress, and mucous membranes start to decay fairly quickly without blood flow. And then things dry up, and then a little bit of mucus comes in. And the next thing you know, you got this stringy garbage producing in your mouth, and you self-groom. I've seen that thousands of times. In sear, I would see protein build up in the corners of your mouth. You get white protein caked up in the corners of your mouth because of the level of stress. That's a really bad indicator that a person is in fight or flight that you'll probably never see in your life. But here you're seeing it in a very wealthy person who is under high stress from a different cause. That internal mouth grooming is because he's dry in the mouth. He may not have protein breakdown yet, but he's certainly, or mucous membrane, but he's certainly feeling the effects of fight or flight. Number one. I think the quick glance is because he's prepared very well to answer, yes, I did this, yes, I did this, yes, I did this. And I think to your guys' point, he has a plan for how he is going to unfold this story. And this is one of those moments I don't want to jump ahead that far. I think he has a plan. And so you see that movement. Otherwise, you guys have covered everything except respiration is ramping rapidly now. Fight or flight, you see the nostrils flaring, see the skin getting lighter. And the best part of this whole thing is he's aging as you watch him. His face is looking older by the minute. So that by the end of this, and guys, we're 7 minutes in, and you're seeing his eyes bagging, his face sagging, all of those things that you expect from a president who goes through this, but not in 7 minutes. You're seeing a difference in his face. The stress is there.
Just for the record, you've been on his private plane.
Yes.
You've been to stay on his private island.
Yes.
You've stayed at his home in Palm Beach.
Yes.
You visited Ghislaine Maxwell's house in Belgravia in London.
Yes.
Anybody else want to have anything they want to add to this before we get out of here?
Just stay tuned, because if you thought that was pretty bad,
It was warming
it's
up.
a lot worse.